Welcome to Willow Creek, where the sun shines golden, the coffee's always hot, and one little girl's love for her dog changes everything. Picture this: a sleepy town square, a loyal German shepherd, and a biker who's about to learn that every choice has a heartbeat. Grab a cozy spot, because this story's got heart, hope, and a twist you won't see coming. If you love tales that warm the soul, hit that subscribe button and join our little family. Let's dive in together. The midday sun beat down on Willow Creek, a small town nestled in the heart of America's Midwest, where the air smelled of freshly cut grass and maple syrup from the local diner. Chrome gleamed off a line of motorcycles as their engines growled to a slow, menacing idle in the town square. Jack "Iron" Malone, a hulking figure in a weathered leather jacket, swung his leg off his black Harley, its red flame decals catching the light. His heavy boots hit the pavement with a thud, and he scanned the sleepy scene with a crooked grin that had intimidated tougher men than Willow Creek's residents. Behind him, his crew, the Steel Vipers, formed a loose arc, their faces half hidden by bandanas and helmets, exuding a restless energy. Jack's eyes landed on a sight that sparked mischief: a majestic German shepherd sitting calmly beside a little purple backpack outside the Sweet Maple Diner. The dog's ears twitched, alert but unruffled, as if guarding something precious. "Check this out, boys," Jack called over his shoulder, his voice cutting through the warm June air. His gang snickered, egging him on as he sauntered toward the dog with exaggerated swagger. Without a second thought, he swung his boot, not hard enough to maim, but enough to send a sharp yelp echoing across the square. The sound sliced through the stillness like a crack of thunder. Then came a scream, a high, piercing cry from the diner's doorway. A little girl, no more than 7, stood there, her strawberry ice cream cone splattering onto the sidewalk. Her face crumpled, not just with shock but with a heartbreak that seemed too big for her small frame. "Buddy," she shrieked, racing toward her wounded friend. But it wasn't her cry that wiped the smirk off Jack's face. It was the man stepping out behind her, a tall, broad-shouldered figure whose expression shifted from bewilderment to a steely resolve. Even through Jack's mirrored sunglasses, he recognized those piercing gray eyes. They belonged to Judge Henry Callahan, the man who dismantled his life years ago in a courtroom 50 miles away. Willow Creek was the kind of place you'd see on a postcard: century-old maple trees shading a courthouse with a clock tower that chimed every hour, family-owned shops lining Main Street, and a central green where kids chased fireflies in summer. Crime here was rare: lost pets and the occasional runaway lawnmower made up the police blotter. That Tuesday had started like any other. The bakery sold out of blueberry muffins by 9 a.m., and Judge Callahan's clerk had shuffled his afternoon docket because a hearing ran long. Then the roar of the Steel Vipers' bikes shattered the peace. Inside the diner, 7-year-old Lily Callahan sat across from her father at their usual table by the window. It was their Tuesday ritual. Early dismissal from school meant hot cocoa for her, black coffee for him, and a chance to catch up. Today, she'd convinced him to let Buddy, her German shepherd, wait outside by her backpack. The dog was her shadow, a gift from her late mother, Sarah, who'd whispered from her hospital bed 3 years ago, "He'll keep you safe when I can't." Since then, Buddy had been Lily's rock, sleeping by her bed, listening to her nightly ramblings, and starring in the letters she wrote to her mom, tucked away in a keepsake box. Judge Henry Callahan, at 52, was a fixture in Willow Creek, a federal judge known for his fairness and quiet strength. His dark hair had grayed early after Sarah's death to cancer, but his steady gaze still commanded respect. He kept his work and home life separate, cooking dinner each night while Lily tackled homework, preserving the routines Sarah had loved. Only Lily saw the private moments when he'd sit on their porch swing, clutching a photo of his wife, his broad shoulders trembling with unspoken loss. Jack Malone hadn't always been "Iron." For 15 years, he'd been Officer Malone of the Riverton PD, a cop with a reputation for getting results, sometimes too forcefully. His fall came 4 years back after a string of complaints. The final straw was a rough arrest of a teen caught tagging a wall, leaving the kid with a fractured wrist. Standing before Judge Callahan's bench, he'd heard the words that still stung: the badge is for service, not dominance. Stripped of his career, Jack traded blue for black, joining the Steel Vipers, where his size and temper found a new home. At 45, his tattoos told stories his scars hid, including one on his ankle from a childhood run-in with a neighbor's pit bull that left him wary of dogs ever since. The diner went quiet as Jack's boot met Buddy's ribs. Lily's scream jolted patrons to their feet, chairs scraping the floor. Henry stood, napkin falling from his lap, and moved toward the door. The diner's owner, Maggie Harper, a grandmotherly figure who'd known Lily since she was a baby, grabbed his arm. "Henry, should I call Sheriff Tate?" she whispered. "Not yet," he replied, his voice calm but firm. Through the window, he saw Buddy still sitting, ears forward, surrounded by bikers. The dog's training held, but danger loomed. Outside, Jack circled Buddy, sneering. "Look at this pampered pup," he taunted. "Probably eats steak while we're scraping by." The dog's steady gaze, calm, dignified, grated on Jack. It reminded him of everything he'd lost: order, respect, purpose. Lily, clutching her melting ice cream, watched from the doorway as her father pushed through. Just as Henry stepped onto the sidewalk, Jack's boot struck again. Buddy yelped, and Lily's cry brought the square to a standstill. Henry's face hardened as he recognized Jack. "Mr. Malone," he said, his courtroom tone cutting through the tension. "I believe you've just harmed my daughter's dog." Lily ran to Buddy, wrapping her arms around his neck, tears streaming. Jack's grin faltered. The last time he'd faced Henry Callahan, he'd been in handcuffs, his badge confiscated. Now, they stood eye to eye on a sunlit sidewalk. The power dynamic flipped. The Steel Vipers shifted uneasily, sensing trouble. Jack recovered, forcing a laugh. "Well, if it isn't Judge Callahan. Didn't know this mutt was yours. Guess he's got some justice in him, huh?" His crew chuckled nervously, but Lily's sobs silenced them. She checked Buddy for injuries, the dog licking her tears despite his pain. Henry's fists clenched, but years on the bench steadied him. "Lily," he said gently, "take Buddy inside. Ask Maggie for water and a towel." She hesitated, then obeyed, leading the limping dog into the diner. Alone with Jack, Henry squared his shoulders. "We have two paths here, Mr. Malone. One involves Sheriff Tate arresting you for animal cruelty. Given your record and these witnesses, I'd estimate 6 months behind bars. The other is you and your friends leaving Willow Creek now and not coming back." Jack's jaw tightened, his hand brushing the knife at his hip, a legal carry, but a clear threat. "You threatening me, Judge? Out here, your robe's just cloth." Henry didn't flinch. "Not a threat, an outline of consequences. And if we were in my courtroom, you'd already be detained for that gesture." Sirens wailed in the distance. Maggie had called the sheriff despite Henry's caution. Jack's crew glanced around, restless. Before he could retort, Maggie stepped out, arms crossed. "Jack Malone? Didn't recognize you under all that leather. Used to come in here as a kid, begging for extra syrup on your pancakes." The Vipers snickered, and Jack's face reddened. "Shut it, Maggie," he snapped. "Don't you dare," Henry cut in, his voice sharp. "Maggie's been a pillar here longer than you've known right from wrong." Sheriff Tate's cruiser rolled up, lights flashing. The broad-shouldered lawman stepped out, hand on his holster. "Everything okay, Judge?" he asked, eyeing the bikers. Jack laughed bitterly. "Ain't this perfect? The judge, the busybody, and the sheriff, Willow Creek's finest, ganging up on me again." Henry's gaze softened slightly. Again, he echoed. Maybe consider why you keep landing here. Mr. Malone. Jack's bravado cracked, a flicker of the man he'd been peering through. You don't even remember, do you? He muttered. Henry frowned. Remember what? Jack's voice dropped. I was the first on scene when your wife crashed. Pulled her from the wreck, held her hand, till the medics came. Henry's composure wavered, memories of that rainy night flooding back, a young officer's face blurred by grief. That was you? He whispered. Jack nodded. Not that it matters now. You still took my badge. Your actions did that, Henry replied, regaining his tone. Our past doesn't excuse today. A cry from the diner interrupted them. Dad! Buddy's hurt bad. Lily's voice shook with panic. Henry rushed inside, finding Buddy collapsed on the tile, breathing shallowly. Maggie knelt beside him, probing gently. Could be internal bleeding, she murmured. That kick might have cracked something. Henry dropped beside Lily, stroking Buddy's fur as the dog's tail thumped weakly. We need a vet, now. Jack stood in the doorway, watching silently. Their eyes met over Buddy's prone form, a shift in the air between them. Sheriff Tate pulled out his radio. Vet's 10 minutes out. I'll call ahead. Jack stepped forward unexpectedly. No time for calls. My bike's fastest, I'll take him. Henry started to protest, but Lily's tearful please. Dad, he's hurting, stopped him. He searched Jack's face, finding grim resolve. I'll ride with him, Tate offered, opening his cruiser. Jack lifted Buddy with surprising care, cradling him as they headed out, leaving the Vipers stunned. The Willow Creek Veterinary Clinic sat in a quaint Victorian house on Elm Street, its wraparound porch a haven for worried pet owners. As Sheriff Tate's cruiser screeched into the emergency lot, Dr. Laura Bennett waited at the door, her auburn hair streaked with gray from years of late-night calls. At 44, she'd been the town's vet for nearly 2 decades. Her steady hands a lifeline for countless animals. What happened? She demanded as Tate opened the door, her eyes locking onto Buddy's limp form before widening in recognition. That's Judge Callahan's dog. Jack stepped from his bike, his bravado gone. I did it, he admitted. Kicked him. Can you fix him? Laura's gaze hardened, but she wasted no time. Exam room 1, carefully. She guided Jack as he carried Buddy inside, instructing, support his back, don't jostle him. In the sterile room, Jack laid Buddy on the table as Laura snapped on gloves, her hands moving expertly over the dog's frame. A faint whine escaped Buddy when she pressed his side. Broken ribs, she muttered. Possible internal bleeding, his gums are pale. Henry burst in, carrying Lily, who clung to him. Laura, do what you have to, he said, setting Lily down but keeping a hand on her shoulder. Laura nodded. X-rays first, then surgery if needed. Jen, prep the suite. To Tate, she added, Tom, take Lily outside, this isn't for her to see. Lily's grip tightened. No. I won't leave Buddy. Laura knelt to her level. Lily. He's hurt bad. I need to focus to help him. Can you be brave for Buddy? Tears fell, but Lily nodded, letting Tate guide her out with a gentle, let's get you some juice, kid. Laura turned to Jack, her tone icy. You, out. He hesitated. I want to help. Henry's voice cut through. You've helped enough. Laura raised a hand. Both of you, out. I can't work with this tension. Neither moved until she snapped, leave, or Buddy suffers longer. That spurred them. Henry exited, his posture rigid. Jack followed, glancing back at Buddy with something like regret. In the waiting room, Lily sipped apple juice on Tate's knee, hiccuping through sobs. Henry paced, checking his watch, while Jack stood by the window, isolated. "Why'd you do it?" Lily asked suddenly, her small voice piercing the silence. Jack turned, startled. "Why'd you hurt Buddy? He's never mean." Jack struggled, words failing him. How could he explain decades of bitterness? A childhood dog bite, and a need to prove himself to a 7-year-old? Before he could answer, Betty and George Miller rushed in, Sarah's best friends and Lily's surrogate grandparents. Betty hugged Lily tight. "We came when Maggie called. How's Buddy?" "We don't know yet," Henry said, gratitude softening his strain. "Laura's checking him." George glared at Jack. "Why's he here?" Tate explained, "He brought Buddy in, fastest way." George grunted, unconvinced, as Betty settled Lily with a plush German Shepherd toy, sparking fresh tears and a tight grip. Silence fell, broken by clinic sounds and Lily's sniffles. Jack studied Henry, noting the grief lines etched deeper since their courtroom clash. His mind drifted to Sarah Callahan's crash, a rainy night he'd never forgotten. He'd been first responder, pulling her from the wreckage, her blood staining his uniform as she gripped his hand. "Tell Henry to look after Lily," she'd whispered. "I'll watch over them." She'd faded before the ambulance arrived. He'd relayed her words to Henry in the hospital, soaked and shaken, but never connected the dots until the dismissal hearing years later. It hadn't seemed relevant, until now. Dr. Laura emerged, her face grim. Lily leapt up. "Is Buddy okay?" Laura knelt. "Good news, he's stable. X-rays show 2 broken ribs and internal bleeding. Bad news, he needs surgery, and it's risky for a dog his age." Henry asked, "When?" "Now," Laura replied. "It'll take 2 hours, maybe more." Lily's eyes brimmed. "I'm staying. Dad. Please." Henry hesitated, then nodded as Betty intervened. "We'll stay, Henry. You've got court tomorrow, rest up. We'll call with news." He relented, kissing Lily's forehead. "I'll get Buddy's bed and ball. I'll be back before surgery's done." Laura glanced at Jack. "I'd like to know how this happened." Jack's swagger dissolved. "It was dumb. I saw him. Anne." He faltered. George pressed, "And what? Kicked him for laughs?" Henry's tone softened. "Try me." Jack sighed. "When I was 8, a pit bull tore into me, left scars and a hate for dogs. Seeing Buddy, all calm and perfect, it hit a nerve. But that's no excuse." Henry nodded slowly. "It doesn't justify it." "I know," Jack said, meeting Lily's gaze. "I'm sorry, kid." "Really?" The Vipers burst in, halting at the scene. "Everything cool, Iron?" one asked. Jack waved them off. "Get out, this isn't your mess." They balked. "We're heading to Riverton, bar plans." Plans changed. Jack snapped. "I'm staying till I know Buddy's okay." The crew left, muttering, as Laura cleared her throat. "I'm prepping surgery. Tom, take statements while I work." She paused. "Lily, want to say goodbye to Buddy? He's sedated but might hear you." Lily nodded, following with Betty as Henry and Jack stayed behind, an uneasy truce forming in the fading light. Surgery began under harsh lights, Laura's hands steady as she cut into Buddy's anesthetized body. Jen assisted, retracting tissue as Laura assessed the damage. 2 ribs cracked, 1 piercing an organ. In the waiting room, Lily curled on the pull-out sofa, clutching her toy, while Henry sat beside her, lost in thought. Jack lingered near the kennels, silent. Hours ticked by. "Shouldn't we hear something?" Henry asked Betty. "Laura's thorough," she reassured. Lily slept, her face peaceful yet tear-streaked. Rick spoke softly. She looks like Sarah when she slept. Henry's head snapped up. What? After the crash, Jack clarified. She was calm, even then. Sorry, shouldn't have said it. Henry softened. You never mentioned staying with her. Didn't matter in court, Jack shrugged. I remember everything that night, Henry said. A cop brought me coffee, gave me her last words. I didn't link him to you. Jack nodded. I wasn't the same guy by then. Lily woke, crossing to Jack. Mom died before Buddy came. He was her gift to protect me. If he dies, it's like losing her again. Jack knelt. Buddy's strong. Dogs don't hold grudges, just love. My gran said a good dog's heart never quits. Did you have a dog after the mean one? Lily asked. No, Jack admitted. Too scared. But Buddy wouldn't hurt me, would he? Never, Lily smiled. He's the best. Laura emerged, weary. Surgery was tough, 2 ribs, heavy bleeding. He's alive but critical. Next hours decide. Lily clutched Henry's hand. Can I see him? Soon, Laura said. Help me set up his recovery spot. Lily agreed, leaving with Betty. Laura's tone dropped. Henry, it's 50-50. He's weak. Jack asked, odds? Half a chance, Laura replied, eyeing him. Blood loss hit hard. Henry closed his eyes, steadying himself. He stays, he said of Lily. And so do I. Night settled over Willow Creek Veterinary Clinic, the waiting room a patchwork of tension and hope. Betty and George left at Henry's urging, promising a morning return. Sheriff Tate stayed, filing his report before departing with a nod to Jack, civil, if not warm. Lily slept on the sofa, cocooned in blankets, her plush toy tucked close. Henry sat beside her, stroking her hair. His gaze distant. Jack lingered by the recovery hall, a statue of regret. At midnight, Laura emerged, her face ashen. His vitals are dropping. I've given fluids and pain meds. But he's fading. If Lily wants to say goodbye, it's now. Henry's composure shattered, tears fell as he clutched his face. Buddy was Sarah's last gift, her guardian for Lily, losing him was losing her again. Jack shifted, awkward. What about a transfusion? He asked quietly. Laura shook her head. No donor nearby, Riverton's an hour out. Too late. My blood? Jack pressed. Human doesn't work, it'd kill him. Laura snapped. Another dog, then? Jack asked. Any German shepherds here? Laura paused. Even if I had one, matching takes time. Jack's face lit up. Buddy's 5, right? Henry nodded. Puzzled. Jack scrolled his phone, stopping at a photo, a German shepherd puppy with Buddy's markings. This'll sound nuts, but Buddy might be mine. I had a pup, Ranger, 5 years back. Lost my job, couldn't keep him, gave him to a shelter in Riverton. Henry stared. Sarah got Buddy there. They said his owner couldn't care for him. That's where I left him. Jack said, voice breaking. Never thought I'd see him again. Laura cut in. If true, siblings might match. Know any? Jack nodded. My old partner, Mike, has Ranger's brother. Titan, 20 minutes away. Call him, Laura ordered, hope flickering. As Jack stepped out, she cautioned Henry, it's a long shot. It's something, Henry replied, glancing at Lily. Outside, Jack paced, the cool air bracing. If Buddy was Ranger, he'd hurt his own dog, a twist of fate that gutted him. Mike answered groggily. Jack? At 1 a.m.? Emergency. Jack pleaded. Titan for a transfusion, Ranger's dying because of me. A sigh. Address? Willow Vet on Elm. Thanks, Mike. Back inside, Henry watched Buddy's shallow breaths through the recovery window. Jack joined him. Mike's coming. Titan's Ranger's brother, same markings. Henry nodded. He was yours? Certain, Jack said. Gave him up when life fell apart. Laura rushed in. He's crashing. Lily woke, screaming, Buddy, as the monitor flatlined. Laura worked frantically, drugs, compressions, while Henry held Lily, their tears merging. Jack froze. Guilt crashing down. The beep stretched unbroken. After 20 minutes, Laura stopped, exhausted. Time of death, 1:17 a.m. Lily broke free, clutching Buddy's fur. He's not dead. Henry knelt beside her. Whispering, he fought so hard, sweetheart. Jack approached, voice raw. Lily, I did this. I was angry, at everything. I'm so sorry. She looked up, steady despite tears. Why? I was scared of dogs since I was a kid. Seeing Buddy brought it back. No excuse. Footsteps interrupted. Mike arrived with Titan, who bounded to Buddy, whining and nuzzling. They were tight as pups, Mike said. Laura leaned in. Stethoscope on Buddy's chest. Wait, I've got a pulse. The monitor flickered, a faint beep, then steadying. Impossible, Jen gasped. He was gone 10 minutes. Laura moved fast. Stimulus from Titan might have sparked it, rare, but it happens. Lily clutched Henry. He's back? He's trying, Henry said, awed. Jack turned away, overwhelmed, and fled to the lot. Sobbing under the stars, for Ranger, his lost life, all he'd broken. Morning light found Henry by Buddy's kennel, Lily asleep nearby. Laura entered, tired but curious. Buddy's records show something odd, the shelter redacted his owner. Henry frowned. Jack said he surrendered him. 2 days later, Laura added, a woman, likely Sarah, picked him, asked to hide the owner's name after meeting him. Henry's mind raced. Why? There's more, Laura said. DNA from Buddy and Titan shows a rare marker, same as Emily's medical file. It's patrilineal. Henry paled. You're saying Jack and Lily? Possibly. Laura nodded. Jack reappeared, haggard, holding a wallet. Buddy's stable? Yes, Laura said. Jack handed Henry a photo, him and a young Sarah, smiling. High school sweethearts. Engaged till she left for law school. Didn't know she'd married you till the hearing. Henry stared, reeling. She never said. Laura added, the marker suggests a link to Lily. Lily woke, seeing Buddy breathe. He's alive. She ran to Jack. You came back. Buddy remembers you, his first dad. Jack knelt. How'd you know I was sad? Mom said his owner was brave but had hard times. Henry heard Sarah's voice in Lily's words. She kept your picture, Lily said. Said you taught Buddy kindness. Silence fell. Is Lily? Henry whispered. I don't know, Jack said. There's a letter I never read, might say. Buddy whined, eyes on them, urging truth. Days later, Jack found it, an apology from Sarah, hinting at a secret kept for Lily's sake. Together, they rebuilt, Henry with his daughter, Jack with a past redeemed, and Buddy, the bridge between, healing in Willow Creek's gentle light. From Willow Creek, we learn that even in our darkest moments, redemption is possible when we face our mistakes with courage and kindness. A dog's love can heal broken bonds, and second chances start with a single step. What's your takeaway from this story? Drop it in the comments below. Give us a like if it touched your heart, and share it with someone who needs a little hope today. Let's keep the conversation going.